Inflation surged to its highest levels in the United States in 2 years because of the global energy crisis created by the war with Iran. March saw a record 25% jump in gas prices for U.S. consumers, hovering near $4 a gallon. Airports are bracing for a jet fuel shortage if oil can't pass through the Strait of Hormuz. It is a full-scale global economic crisis, a complete decimation.
Gas just jumped 25%, and it's not slowing down. This isn't random. It's global oil supply disruption, which means higher prices everywhere. This is Partisan Pulse, because what they're not explaining is this: the same war meant to stabilize things is now doing the opposite.
Donald Trump woke up today between a rock and a hard place. The rock came in the form of surging inflation and gas prices, and the hard place is the fool First Lady Melania Trump made out of his acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who brushed away the Jeffrey Epstein story as old news earlier this week. It is a full-scale global economic crisis that might actually be even worse than those headlines and worse than we think, because the prices of oil that we track don't fully capture the full scale of this disruption.
That's the lie. That's the spin. Because the official story is always that America is strong, that our actions are making us safer. But the numbers don't lie. Inflation isn't an abstract concept. It's the tightening grip on your household budget. It's the choice between filling your tank and feeding your family. This isn't a policy debate. This is a direct line to your grocery bill, your heating costs, and your job security. And it's only getting worse.
And there's no sign of relief right now either, thanks to the fact that despite the 2-week truce, Iran is maintaining its chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is using it as a geopolitical and economic advantage. On that, the New York Times writes this, quote, Iran is giving priority to a trickle of vessels from countries that either trade directly with it or are not viewed as hostile to the Iranian government.
It gets worse. This isn't just about domestic pain. This is a global collapse, and the world knows exactly who to blame. Ireland is calling in the army to quell fuel protests. Airports are bracing for a jet fuel shortage. Why? Because Iran, the very adversary Trump claimed to be punishing, now has a chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz. They're not just maintaining control, they're weaponizing it. They're picking favorites. They're turning international waters into their personal toll road. That's not strength, that's outright capitulation.
It's putting Donald Trump on the defensive. Trump wrote this, quote, there are reports that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be, and if they are, they better stop now, exclamation point. Susan Glasser writes in The New Yorker that it is a failure on multiple fronts in terms of Donald Trump's objectives. Quote, Iran has not only retained control of the strait through which 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supply flows, it now asserts the right to charge millions of dollars.
That right there is the problem. Trump promised to project strength. Instead, he put America on the defensive. He gave Iran the leverage they always wanted. This isn't just a failure. This is a strategic disaster. Iran has not only retained control of 1/5 of the world's oil and gas supply, but now asserts the right to charge millions of dollars for passage. You paid for that. Not in abstract tax dollars, in direct economic weakness. This is exactly what Partisan Pulse exists for. The moment between what they said and what the record shows. Because that gap, that's where your money disappears. This isn't just a policy failure. It's a strategic disaster that affects every single one of us.
Donald Trump trying to reach a peace deal with Iran while his political and economic troubles pile up at home. Former CIA director and our senior national security and intelligence analyst, John Brennan, is here. Add your sense of where things stand in terms of all the analysis we've seen over the last 48 hours about how the United States and the Trump administration end this phase of the war with Iran compared to where we were before it started.
So where we are now is that the Iranians are weaker militarily. They've taken hits to their drone capabilities, their ballistic missile capabilities, their leadership has taken hits, but they are not weaker strategically because they retain control of the Strait of Hormuz, that even though the United States destroyed much of Iran's navy, what they discovered is they didn't need a navy to hold on to the Strait of Hormuz. Just the threat of those remaining ballistic missiles and drones allowed them to retain control, and that has become their key leverage. And so these talks are starting where both sides are trying to achieve very different aims. The United States wants that strait open. It wants Iran to remove its nuclear weapons capability, vow to not keep developing its program. And the Iranians are seeking sanctions relief, some sort of new relationship in terms of how it can continue to manage the strait, the end of fighting in Lebanon, which puts the United States at crossroads with Israel, and the promise of no future strikes. And as you noted, the president saying that that could resume in a matter of days means that we're at a point now where it's not clear how both sides reach a point where there's an enduring cessation of hostilities, where both sides can feel that they have gained something, largely because Iran is entering these talks feeling that they have the upper hand.
That's the lie. They want you to believe Trump's troubles are at home, separate from the war, but they are intertwined. They are one and the same. Because while the U.S. might have dealt military damage, Iran is not weaker strategically. They control the Strait of Hormuz. They've found a new way to weaponize their position. They didn't need a navy, just the threat of those missiles, just the chokehold. That's not my assessment. That's the intelligence community on the record. That's the outcome of an ill-advised decision. That's Iran with the upper hand.
Director Brennan, is there any way strategically, I like the way Nancy sort of separated out military accomplishments on our side that led to military damage inside Iran from strategic objectives. And one of the, I think, ways that Trump has proven to be a political Houdini is that he says 37 things, and then in the end, everyone's so confused. But it was never communicated to anyone, by anyone, that said anything publicly that the single objective was to do some damage to Iran's navy. I mean, that wasn't anyone's reason. Donald Trump told people that help is on the way. That was speaking to protesters. Regime change is something that they've all talked about. The nuclear program is something that they've all talked about. Iran now has complete control of the Strait of Hormuz. It maintains its nuclear enrichment program. It's got tons of sanctions relief that I'm sure will quickly fund the rebuilding of the military program. I mean, is there any analysis strategically that we haven't exited weaker than we entered?
No, and I think everybody's confused because Donald Trump himself is confused, and it just shows the real ill-advised decision that he made as far as this war is concerned.
The world has figured it out. Our allies are making contingency plans. They see America in a much different light. They see a nation that has sacrificed its standing, its influence for a reckless war. They blame the United States. They see Trump as a madman, a lunatic using military capabilities in a reckless way. And they're not wrong. This isn't speculation. This is the documented, real-world cost of a foreign policy driven by ego, not strategy. And the damage, it's profound, it's long-lasting, and it lands squarely on you.
Neither side at this point has a winning hand. Iran, though, I think has a spoiler hand at this point because now they have played a card that they didn't play before this conflict started, which is the Strait of Hormuz.
It's just amazing that we are one way or another going to rebuild Iran at a time when Trump is saying there's no money for Medicare or childcare.
The world has figured out that we are not who we were and they must make other plans. And while everyone will deal with us because we're rich and powerful and we have resources, it will be a transactional relationship that does not give us the strength that we have benefited from.
How do you assess the damage to America's standing in the world?
Profound and long-lasting. Every person I spoke to were just disgusted with what's going on right now in terms of what the United States is doing. They really do blame the United States for all of the challenges that they're facing on the economic, political, strategic front.
Go back to what Trump said at the top. Complete decimation. Now you know it wasn't a threat of strength. It was a projection of his own failure. A failure that has left Iran stronger, the world in chaos, and America's reputation shattered. The record is clear. The timeline is documented. The only question now is who's watching. Drop one word in the comments: accountability or complicity. Let's see where this audience lands.